Hello, guys, and welcome to Odds Premier League Matchday 11, the one that we are going to see Liverpool, Man City, and we are going to listen to Tom Rennie's tips and analysis. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Hello. I'm looking forward to giving you both tips and analysis on today's show.
Great week for the English teams in the Premier League. We cannot say the same about the Scottish, but this is the English Premier League. So let's analyze all the games with Tom. Remember that we also want to know your tips and your predictions for this match day. And of course, as you can read here, like the video and subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. And we don't have a game on Monday because we have another match day the following week. So we have a game on Friday evening, and we have Brentford, Brighton. You were absolutely spot on with Brighton losing at home against Tottenham. That was a tough one, I would say, but 1-0 victory for the Spurs, or defeat for Brighton, the first one under the new manager, De Zerbi. And now we have odds of 2.5 that I would say they are kind of appealing for them to beat Brentford. And Brentford, they are coming from a heavy defeat in Newcastle.
Yeah, odd one this. I was very confident last week with Tottenham beating Brighton and the score being low. This one might be one of the toughest bets of the weekend because Brentford have got 2 wins this season, both big home wins, famously against Manchester United and impressively against Leeds. Apart from that, they haven't won all season. They haven't won in their last 3 games as well. They were beaten at home by Arsenal last time they played at home. A couple of away games where they picked up 1 point. And the performance at Newcastle last week. I mean, I backed Newcastle to win. I didn't think Newcastle would trounce Brentford in the way they did. But Brentford, I don't really mean this, but it looks like it. Did they have a bet on? Were they betting on Newcastle to score 5? They just kept giving them goals. It was one of the worst defensive performances of any team in the league for some time. So I expect this week Brentford to have really worked on defense, really have worked on do your jobs. Ethan Pinnock, one of the all-time bad performances last weekend in the Premier League that I've seen. So I expect maybe him to be dropped. But no Pontus Jansson still, so maybe there's just no one who can come in for him. At home, they do score goals. At home, they have been quite offensive, Brentford, but at this moment in time, I'd be concerned about them. For Brighton, very poor last week. Very, very poor. They look like a team that have got a new manager. They look like a team that haven't played a game in a month. They look like a team who just don't quite know where they are. And I suppose that's all to be expected, considering they just played at Liverpool before that in a month. They've lost Graham Potter. They've brought in De Zerbi, who is a good manager, an offensive manager, but isn't Graham Potter. So you've got to learn a new voice. You've got to learn new tactics. And, you know, the Brighton squad isn't great. It isn't a great squad. Graham Potter's massively overachieved with that squad. You know, the reason that Danny Welbeck's career is where it is that he's great for 3 games. He disappears for a month. They've lost Ina Kumwepu to retirement, sadly, in the last week or so. That's an issue that leaves them a physical presence down in midfield, which is going to be a problem for Brighton. So, look, in this game, I see 2 teams that are going to be safely in mid-table come the end of the season. So no great concern, for me at least, at the moment for either club. I think it's going to be quite an open affair. I'd expect plenty of shots in this game. I'd be looking at the shots market for over 10 on each team, over 6 on target for each team. I'd be looking for goals at both ends as well. And draw really speaks to me. Draw around 3-1, 4-1 really speaks to me. Draw, both teams score, with Brighton scoring late and Brentford scoring early.
We have Marco and Pavel going for the draw, but we also have Abel and Mikkel going for a Brighton victory. For this one, draw 3.5 right now on Oddspedia. And on Saturday, we have Leicester City, Crystal Palace. I don't understand how Leicester City can be favorite for a football game. They are bottom of the table with only 4 points, and the odds for them to win is 2.3. I don't understand it, especially after another poor performances in the defense. The 2 goals conceded, the second goal conceded against Bournemouth is awful, absolutely awful. And Crystal Palace, we try to praise him, Tom, but again, they are not getting the results.
No, just one win in, 5 now for Crystal Palace. Beat Leeds last week, but it wasn't a great performance. I think Leeds probably should have been out of sight in the first half an hour or so. They let Palace back in the game. I think it was more about the deficiencies of Leeds, really, than how good Palace are. Not won an away game this season yet either, Crystal Palace. And Leicester only one win all season. That was at home, that thrashing over Nottingham Forest. Tough game, this one. I mean, in terms of predicting the outcome, I'm going to give you some suggestions, but this might be one I avoid this weekend because I can see all possible results. Leicester can attack. They're good at attacking. They score in most games. It's the defence that's atrocious for them. For Crystal Palace, they're very middling in both regards. They've scored 10 goals, fine. Conceded 12 goals, slightly above average, but fine. But they're solid and unspectacular. I think they'll go to Leicester and try and shut the game down. I think they'll go to Leicester and prevent the Foxes from having shots, but they won't commit too many forward. I expect 2 defensive midfielders. I expect a strong bank of 4. I expect them to try and hit them on the break with Eze and Wilfried Zaha and try and do something in that way. But I see low scoring. I see a good double chance option here for Crystal Palace to win and take the draw. I think around 3-1 for Palace is quite nice. I would have thought this might be 2.2, 2.3 each, something like that. But so to see Leicester as favourites is surprising. I mean, look, if you are a gambler and you have a little bet at the weekend, either small or large, would you bet on Leicester right now? And the answer is no. Of course the answer is no. So don't take any type of Leicester City bet for them to win. Go draw, go Palace, go double chance, go low scoring, and look at the James Maddison to score market, the only bright spot in Leicester's season. Him to score from outside of the area, you can get for around 8-1 this morning. So that's quite nice.
Mikel is going for the double chance, as we are seeing right now, 1.69 that you were flagging. Another relegation 6-pointer, Fulham, Bournemouth. Fulham back-to-back defeats, getting 3 against West Ham, 4 against Newcastle. They lost 3 out of the last 4 games, and the important changes in Bournemouth. And since they lost 9-0 against Liverpool, no defeats for them in the last 5 games. Well done, and they are now far from the relegation, no, because everything is really balanced, but they put a distance with the bottom 3.
Yeah, 6 points in the bottom 3, though it's early in the season still. We're a couple of weeks away from really looking at the table and seeing where things lie. But very impressive Bournemouth under Gary O'Neill. Done a terrific job to just solidify things. They obviously want to play for him. The players obviously felt extremely embarrassed by what happened at Anfield, and that has led to this run of brilliant, resilient performances. 5 without defeat, 2 wins in that time. Great come from behind win against Leicester City last week. There's nothing particularly spectacular about anything Bournemouth do. There's nothing particularly spectacular about any particular Bournemouth player, but they're playing together right now. They're playing as a 4-4-2 unit. There's a great line in my favourite sports movie, Mike Bassett, England Manager, where he drops the Christmas pudding formation, which is like Glenn Hoddle's Christmas tree. And he says, England are playing 4-4-2. And it means we're going back to basics, do our jobs. And that's what Bournemouth are doing. 4-4-2, do your job, outwork the opponent, take the chances when they come. And that's how they beat Leicester City. So that's been impressive. And that's going to be tough for Fulham this weekend, because I went to the West Ham Fulham game last weekend, and first 20 minutes, they could have been out of sight. They scored 1 goal, that brilliant Pereira drive. Dan James hit the bar, but no Mitrovic. No Mitrovic, no victory. He is the outstanding player in the team. Maybe the outstanding player in the league, bar Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, the obvious ones, the unexpected outstanding player, if you like. So we don't know if he's back yet, still struggling with that ankle foot injury. And without him, there's not a great deal of goal threat. I think Zuma and Dawson last week kept them pretty much at bay. And as the game went on, it finished 3-1. All the goals are a bit controversial, sure, but West Ham could have won it 5 or 6-1 in the end. They were significantly better than Fulham. So this is really interesting, this. If Mitrovic is fit, go Fulham to win. If Mitrovic is fit, go Fulham to win and Mitrovic to score. And I'd be looking at Fulham to take the lead and keep the lead in this game. So if they open the scoring, they go on to win the game. Without Mitrovic, I don't see it. So you might need to leave your bet late on this one. Leave it an hour till kickoff. No Mitrovic, go draw. Mitrovic, Fulham win.
All right, Marco is going for a double chance for Bournemouth. Actually, we have good odds for the underdogs, or the underdogs are not really that known favorites in this match day, or at least in the first three games. And also here, I wouldn't say Wolves are big favorites against Nottingham Forest or against any team in the Premier League. Wolves, Nottingham Forest, both in the bottom three. Wolves are still without a manager. I was just checking, and Julen Lopetegui declined the offer to go to Wolverhampton. So I'm surprised you sack a manager, but you don't have a replacement. I don't think this is a good idea moving forward. Being in the bottom three, where is your bet in this game? A tough one, I guess, Tom.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Yeah, I don't know really. I mean, the only thing I quite fancy in this game is Diego Costa to score, because he came on against West Ham, Bruno Lage's final game, looked threatening, could have scored a header. He started last week against Chelsea in what turned out to be the Diego Costa testimonial match and looked reasonably sharp, getting fitter all the time. And Bruno Lage was kind of right. With a striker, Wolves would be doing better. So Diego Costa to score his first goal back in the Premier League is around 3.5. Get it around 4-1, I imagine, getting towards the weekend when the first teams come out. So I'd be looking at that. And frankly, if Wolves are going to win, they need Diego Costa to score because no one else is going to do it. I mean, they've scored 3 goals in 9 games now. You know, for a few weeks, we were looking at it thinking it's still early, it's still early, it's still early. We're getting there now. And they still aren't scoring goals. So Costa has to score. And I think he will in this game. Still no Kalidzic, out for a long time. Still no Raul Jimenez, out for a long time. So he has to do that job. Ruben Neves is suspended. Pedro Neto is injured. So it's going to be an issue, this, for Wolverhampton Wanderers, who to put out. So I think Steve Davis will remain in temporary charge. He'll do what Gary O'Neill has done at Bournemouth, 4-4-2. Do your jobs. Do what I'm telling you. Do what you've done since you were 6 years old, playing over the park with your friends in Portugal. And it's going to be okay. And they're also coming up against brilliant opponents in Nottingham Forest, who got a draw against Aston Villa in Monday Night Football. And we went low scoring in that game. I kind of tipped for Villa as well, but double chance was a good tip, I think, for that one, because I don't get it with Forest. I still don't get it. Every week, it's 3 at the back, it's 4 at the back, it's 5 in midfield, it's 2 in midfield, it's 1 striker, it's 3 strikers, it's Lingard, it's Gibbs-White. They still don't know. They still don't know exactly what they are. I haven't got a clue what Nottingham Forest are at this moment in time. I'm glad they've stuck with Steve Cooper. Got a new contract last week, as we know, but now's the time. Now's the time to pick your team. Is the front 3 Gibbs-White, Dennis and Johnson, which we saw on Monday? If it is, great. Let's go with it. Is the midfield Kouyaté, Freuler and Yates? If it is, great. Let's play it. Is it a 4 at the back with McKenna and Cook? If it is, great. Let's do it. Is Serge Aurier going to be your starting right back? When did that happen? I don't know. You know, get your team. If that was the team on Monday, I want to see the team again in this game. If they do that, I think they've got a chance of going to Wolves and getting a result. If not, they scramble it around again. I would go Wolves win. So, in short, I don't know. In short, go with Diego Costa to score. And in short, might be one to avoid.
Indeed. Diego Costa to score for Mikel also and Gitanawap. So we have tough games for the relegation battle. All these 4, to be honest, not very appealing, I guess, for the neutral fan. And I was also surprised to see Steve Cooper getting a new contract until 2025. And we were talking a couple of weeks ago that he might be sacked. He was not. Next game now, we go with the big guns. Tottenham, Everton. Tottenham getting victories and victories. That one, an ugly one perhaps against Brighton in the Champions League, a massive one against Eintracht, coming back from behind, but also playing against 10 men, missing a penalty. This is also weird. Kane missed the penalty, and now they are massive favorites to beat Everton. Always very competitive, this Everton. First defeat in 6 games against Man United.
Yeah, 2 of the ugliest teams in the league to watch. I think you used the right word there. They're ugly to watch. They just are so focused on do your job, get the result, forget about paying punters, forget about people coming in to watch this as a piece of entertainment. Let's just get the result and forget this happened. You know, for Tottenham, they scored those 6 goals against Leicester. Though the funny thing about that game is I think Leicester probably could have won it at 3-2 with 25 minutes to go. It was Son's introduction and Leicester's defensive meltdown, which kind of flattered Spurs in that game. Apart from that, 1 goal against West Ham, couple against Fulham, 1 against Arsenal, 1 against Brighton. They're a pretty low-scoring team on average. Take away the 6 goals against Leicester. You know, if me auntie had wheels, she'd be a barra. I get that. But they've scored 14 goals in 9 games. It's not an amazing amount of goals if you take away that one anomaly against Leicester City. So I expect this game to be 2 teams who quite literally don't want the ball. If you watch West Ham against Tottenham a few weeks ago, it was vaguely similar. Both teams wanted you to have it. No, you have it. You have it. And then as soon as someone attacked, which was West Ham, Tottenham took the ball back and scored the opening goal of the game. And West Ham only scored in that game because Tottenham continued to insist to play the ball out from the back when the players they've got, they're not very good at it. So that was the only reason West Ham scored. So I expect this game to be real low scoring. Look at the score from a corner market. One of the best teams, if not the best team in the league this season at scoring from corners, Tottenham Hotspur. They brought in a set-piece coach who's got them. You know, they bring all these set-piece coaches in like they work for NASA. And it's always get someone at the front post to flick it on. It's not that hard, is it? I could do that job. You know the tall bloke? Put him at the front and he'll flick it on to someone at the back. 20 grand, please, whenever you're ready. You know, so that's broadly what I expect. Look at the corner market. Go for 10 to 15 corners in this game. 10 for Tottenham, 5 for Everton. Look at Richarlison to score. Players always score against their former teams. 5 shots on target in 6 starts for Tottenham. Look at Harry Kane to score. 13 goals in 14 games against Everton. 2 Richarlison shots on target in this game is around 3-1. Let's go heavy on corners. And no team has scored more goals from headers this season as well than Tottenham. Kane to score a header is around 8-1. So go Tottenham win. Go low scoring. Literally 1-0 or 0-0. But under 1.5, Tottenham win. And that goal comes from a corner.
All right. You just mentioned like the goal scored by Firmino actually against Rangers. Just put someone tall in the
flick it on. They all think they're geniuses, mate. They're like, oh, I've got an idea for you. Flick it on.
And that's it.
Yes. Yeah. Flick it on.
Well, good news if we go for an under here because the bookies actually expect more goals for this game. So under 2.5 goals, we have odds around 2.1, 2.2. That could be a good option as Tom is tipping. Next game, Aston Villa, Chelsea. It was weird when Chelsea sacked Tuchel, but it is working with Potter now for victories, 4 consecutive victories for Chelsea, also beating Milan away 0-2. Aubameyang scoring a hell of a signing, this one, Aubameyang, and they are going to Birmingham. Didn't lose in the last 4 games with 3 draws, also against Nottingham Forest, so we don't have to be very optimistic about Aston Villa. Chelsea to win is about right now, 1.9 almost.
Yeah. I think that's about right. I think I'll maybe even drop as we get towards the weekend as a lot of faith goes out of the market in Aston Villa. I mean, look, at the moment, Steven Gerrard is a man under pressure. He's under pressure because his team is uninspiring. They spent decent money during the summer, but those players got injured almost immediately in Kamara and Diego Carlos. And if you look at recent games, 1 goal against Nottingham Forest, 1 goal against Southampton, 1 against Man City, and 1 against Arsenal. They cannot get that second goal. They're not capable right now of going for that second goal. And even in the first goals they've scored, they've been spectacular. Ashley Young or Leon Bailey against Man City, or a little bit chonky, a little bit tapping, a little bit fortunate. They're not a free-flowing forward football team, this Aston Villa team. And Steven Gerrard's not popular. He's not popular because, to be fair, he's not got a great personality. He's not a very warm and welcoming personality. He's not a very verbose character. But also, he keeps popping up at Liverpool for a Legends event or the Rangers game. And if I'm a Villa fan, I'm there thinking, well, you're my manager now. Like, when you leave us, go back to being Liverpool legend Steven Gerrard. But until then, you're our manager, and we ain't playing so clever. So maybe keep your head down, focus on this job, and a bit later, take your lap of honour for being Liverpool legend Steven Gerrard. Now, people might think that's a bit mad, but football fans are weird like that. Football fans are being like, oh, well, okay, if you want to leave, just leave. We don't need you here. It's my club. Not one Aston Villa fan cares what happens with Liverpool. Not one. The manager does. That's a problem. And that's a problem in terms of them liking him. For Chelsea, we're getting there. You can see it. You mentioned it. Possession, 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 possession. Keep the ball. Love the ball. Look after the ball. best form of defense is to have the ball. Best form of attack is to have the ball. That's Graham Potter. And they're doing it now. So look at possession stats in this game. I'd expect this to be 70-30, 75-25. I'd expect Chelsea to make 800 passes and Villa to make 200 to 250. I'd expect Chelsea to win this game reasonably comfortably with the quality of player they've got. And I expect heavy rotation from the Champions League in midweek. So maybe Christian Pulisic, who impressed against Wolves, comes back into the starting 11. Maybe Aubameyang comes in, Kai Havertz drops out, Mason Mount comes into the starting 11 in the Premier League. There's loads of variations you can make here for Chelsea. The squad's embarrassingly strong. The players are buying into this new manager who wants to play football. These players want to play football. There was no way of knowing. The only doubt would be the back line is a bit weak looking for Chelsea. So there's a possibility that Aston Villa might get their usual one, but I would expect Chelsea to get 2 or 3 in this game and dominate the ball. Chelsea win, high possession, and I wouldn't bet against them winning both halves as well.
Okay, to win 2-0, for instance, could be an option, or you expect Aston Villa to get 1?
The last few games make me feel like they might score one incredible goal. You know, some 30-yard blaster. You can't carry on forever, but they certainly won't get more than one. Never go over that, and I think Chelsea get 2.
Okay, Chelsea -1 for Marco. And Abedi is asking you if Gerrard is going to be sacked, in your opinion, if Aston Villa lose this game.
I don't think on this game, mainly because they've not lost in 4 and they're solid and they're surviving, but they're not excelling. So I think Steven Gerrard gets to the World Cup. I think there's a few managers in the league, Brendan Rodgers, Ralph Hasenhüttl, Steven Gerrard, 1 or 2 others. I think he gets to the World Cup now. We're 3 or 4 games away. So what would you do now? Look at the mess Wolves are in.
Indeed. Okay, next game, the leaders. Arsenal going to Elland Road to play against Leeds. Leeds lost against Crystal Palace at home. They are better this season than playing away, but Arsenal, what to say about them? They are winning, playing well, even beating the big guns in this Premier League. They won the North London Derby. They beat Liverpool. Last time they went out, they beat comfortably Brentford. So we have to trust them, no? To keep on track.
Yeah, right now Arsenal have my full trust. They have my full trust to go to Leeds United and win. We'll talk about Arsenal in a second. I just think it's worth keeping your eye on Leeds. 2 points in 5 games. The manager is histrionic. He's excitable. And I think that there's a chance they might really start to struggle as we get towards the World Cup. I think Leeds will be very, very happy to see the World Cup come around and get to regroup and rethink with the transfer window. First few weeks of the season, Rodrigo scoring goals. No one really saw it coming and no one thought it was going to last, and it didn't. Patrick Bamford has come back in. You're a bit like, you know, is he ever going to come back to the player he was in that first season up where there were no fans in because of COVID and all that? Not seeing it. The only real star performer right now for Leeds is Brendan Aronson, who's been terrific, but he's such a, it's going to sound critical, undisciplined player. He's a free player because he works so hard. He'll run past you. His energy is incredible. But what's his position? You know, and that's an issue for Leeds right now. They look a bit misshapen, a bit erratic. And you can't do that against Arsenal now. You know, with Arsenal at the moment, the performances are dominant. So we don't know as we record this what happened in the Europa League on Thursday, but I expect 7, 8, maybe 9 changes. I would expect Eddie Nketiah to have played and Fabio Vieira, you know, the guys that aren't going to be in the team, Rob Holding. So expect several changes. The Premier League team, if they can get that Premier League team that have played the games that have played so far in as many Premier League matches as possible, they could be champions. I won't say will be champions because I think Man City win the league. You know, I already think that. But I think Arsenal could be on for an 85, 90-point season if they can get the first team that played last week together in every single game. And obviously a bit of luck and all that sort of stuff. But that's a really good team. And I expect them to win here. I expect them to win quite comfortably, actually. You look at some of Arsenal's victories in recent times, you know, last couple of away games, that brilliant win at Brentford, should have got something at Manchester United. The win at Bournemouth where they run at a canter. No significant injuries apart from Zinchenko might have played. So could be Tierney, could be Tomiyasu at left back. Apart from that, you could name the team. Most people watching could. Arsenal win this. Arsenal win it reasonably comfortably. There's a reason they're 1.5. Arsenal not in 1.5 to win an away game in the Premier League for ages, especially not against a decent-looking team like Leeds. So I would go Arsenal win. I'd be looking at a handicap here in this game of 2.5, which is Arsenal to win by 3 or at least score 3 goals in this game. I'd be looking at to win both halves, and I wouldn't back Leeds to score either. I would say 3-0, 4-0 to Arsenal and variations on that theme.
Okay, Mom Spaghetti is telling us, reminding us that Arsenal, they are playing in the Europa League in Norway, is true, but well, they will rotate for sure because they
big time.
have a good path in the Europa League. Arsenal to lose their first game in Andrillo's opinion, and Abed is asking you about Arsenal winning the league. You just mentioned it. I saw a tweet this this week saying that Arsenal, by the way, they are 7-1 right now to win the Premier League. For those who don't know about betting, this is you bet 20 and you lose 20 because it's gonna be Man City to win the title. So for those who are thinking about Arsenal to win the league, but we saw Leicester City winning it with Ranieri. It was other times, but who knows? Who knows? Or perhaps even Man United. If you are optimistic and a Red Devil, Man United getting closer to the Champions League spots. Man United, Newcastle, because they are beating lately all the middle class teams, including Everton 1-2, and even Cristiano Ronaldo scored a goal, and he looked even a bit quicker than in the last months in that counter attack with Casemiro assisting. So good news for them after that defeat in the derby and facing Newcastle also in European spots. Newcastle, Tom.
Terrific game, this. Really, really terrific game to start off Sunday. I think that Man United have been pretty decent in the recent run. I think you forget about the Man City game. They know they're not at Man City level. Man City know they're not at the Man City level. And obviously City took it very seriously and gave them a walloping. But you step away from that game and the hysteria that comes with, Roy Keane watching it on TV and he's in tears, essentially, whinging about it, and get to the real story of this season. And the story of the season is a gritty 1-0 victory at Southampton. Same story for their victory at Leicester. I thought last week against Everton, they were very impressive against an Everton team who are tough to beat at this moment in time. And they should get a heck of a lot of praise for going there and winning. And they scored 2. And the third one should have counted, right? It was silly thing. 1 or 2 injuries that have helped. Maguire's not around, so there's no conversation about Maguire. That helps Maguire and everyone else involved. Some doubts about Martial in this game, so I'd expect Rashford to go back into central striker, not Ronaldo. Ronaldo for the last 20, he might not be happy about it, but it's an incredible weapon to have. Bring on someone like Ronaldo for 20. Ronaldo could play for another 15 years if he just buys into that role. And if he does, I'd expect Man United to get a lot of goals out of Ronaldo. I know he came on around the 30th minute last week, but do it every week on 70. What a weapon. So you've got a lot going on that's very positive about Manchester United. 1 defeat in the last 5. Narrow victories, but impressive victories. As for Newcastle, impressive victories and thumping victories in the last couple of games. I mean, Fulham had a meltdown at Craven Cottage. So I know they scored 4, but you've got to say Fulham really fell apart in that game. And Brentford last week, we mentioned it earlier, they were just giving Newcastle goals. I feel like Ethan Pinnock thought he was playing for Newcastle. It was bizarre the way he played in the last 20, 30 minutes of that game. So great for Newcastle, enjoyable for Newcastle, but I'd be looking more at the result against Bournemouth, the result against Crystal Palace, and their near defeat against Liverpool for what this Newcastle team is, which is competitive, threatening, but not quite at that real top level. And they know that anyway. That's not an insult. That's where they are. But they've got players like Callum Wilson, who I think is brilliant. They've got players like Bruno Guimaraes, who's been incredible. When they've been able to get him fit and playing in the Premier League, that is an issue. And so this game is right in the balance, really in the balance for me. The draw around 4-1 is really nice. I think that's really, really nice in this game. You can get Bruno Guimaraes to score a goal from outside the area for 20-1. That I quite like. I see this game being separated by the odd goal. So I can see it being 2-1 either way. So I would definitely go both teams to score. Both teams score, go for the over 2.5 market because 2-1, 3-1 is a scoreline I really like in this game. Draw and Newcastle as a double chance is right up there for me, but I would suggest 2-1 to Man United is the most likely outcome. But both teams score. narrow scoreline, and just go for Man United.
Good game, this one. Both teams to score 1.67. Also, Pavel is going for both teams to score. Next game, Southampton, West Ham. Back-to-back victories for West Ham because your prayers have been listened, Tom. I can see in your altar Scamacca and 2 goals in the last 2 games. Also, Bowen, you can put a Vinicius picture for myself, please, for me, for this weekend, and see if he scores in El Clásico. And now West Ham traveling to the south to Southampton. In difficulty, Southampton 4 consecutive defeats. So perhaps it's time for West Ham to get another victory and forget about the bottom 3.
It's a really interesting one, this one, because Southampton are, at this moment in time, struggling massively. They're struggling to score goals. They don't necessarily have that top striker. They knew that anyway, but they've got players who can pitch in, but they're not pitching in. Didn't score in the loss against Wolves. Didn't score in the game against Aston Villa. Just won in that home defeat against Everton, where they took the lead, went on to lose it. And they didn't score against Man City, but again, you kind of take that with a grain of salt. At this moment in time, if we're looking at managers who might be sacked, I think Hasenhuttl is right up there with Steven Gerrard for coaches who clubs just seem to have had enough of. He hasn't had great resource during his time at Southampton, but they're also playing very poorly. But it's not a great team. It's not a great team. It's not a well-built squad. They're going into games with Ainsley Maitland-Niles at centre-half, and Bella Kotchap looks like a good player, but not a great player. Gavin Bazunu in goal. It's a good 5 out of 10 goalkeeper, but is he amazing? Are they getting the best out of Joe Aribo? There's loads of question marks about Southampton. The thing is that when Southampton are useless, what usually happens is West Ham go there and they win. And West Ham have been to Southampton loads of times in recent years. They've got better players than Southampton. They should be beating teams like Southampton, and they find a way to lose to Southampton. The FA Cup, was it 5th round last year, was a prime example where West Ham went there in great form, and Southampton went on to win the game and knock West Ham out of the FA Cup. So it happens quite a lot. For West Ham, things have turned. And if you really look at West Ham's season, which we do all the time, should have beaten Nottingham Forest. Forest only win. West Ham had so many shots in that game. They win that. They're on 13 points. They're sitting in 8th. It's about right. Yeah. West Ham are going to finish in the top half. Things go well, I think they could finish in the top 6. Things go poorly, I would say 10th to 9th. And that would still be okay because they're going to try whatever they can to win the Conference League, where they're playing on Thursday against Anderlecht. So West Ham were great against Fulham. Could have scored more goals than they did. I thought they played survival football against Wolverhampton Wanderers in a game they had to win and did. And I think that'll continue. I think it'll be solid. I think it'll be unspectacular. The difference now with West Ham is when games are tight, like it was against Everton a few weeks ago, there was a feeling about who's going to score. Now, Scamacca's going to score. The link-up play between Paquetá and Scamacca is terrific. The first-time pass into Scamacca, who beats the offside, and he can actually shoot and hit the target, which West Ham have not had for about 10 years, makes a massive, massive difference. And in the end, your top-quality players win games like this. So if Scamacca plays, if Paquetá plays, if Declan Rice and Thomas Soucek have been rested in the game in midweek, if Craig Dawson plays, he's come back in and West Ham have stopped losing. No surprise to me there. I think West Ham will win. So I'd be looking at, West Ham to win at, what is it, around 2.4, 2.5? That's not bad at all for a game like this. I'd be looking at around 2.5 for West Ham to win. West Ham win, Scamacca scores, go under 2.5. Low scoring, West Ham clean sheet, Scamacca on the score sheet.
All right. Pavel is asking you if there is any concern about the tiredness of West Ham playing in Europe, but I guess they will have heavy rotations as well.
It depends. Last year in the Europa League, they didn't rotate very much, and that cost them. In the Europa League game against Anderlecht last weekend, I think I'm right in saying 5 or 6 players from the starting 11 didn't play. So I'd expect there to be some tiredness, but they're managing it a lot better this year. Declan Rice is playing 20 minutes, not 90 minutes. So yes, that is a concern, but so far they've managed it well. Don't forget this weekend when they played against Fulham, they just played in the Europa League. Same against Wolverhampton Wanderers. So forgive me, Conference League. So yes, but no.
Okay, Dojila going for Bowen, anytime scorer. And Abedi is telling you, Tom, that Moyes is playing survivor football just as you said. So perhaps David Moyes is watching us. So hello, David Moyes, if you are watching Tom, analyzing your team. And the last game, Liverpool, Man City. Remember, guys, tell me your predictions for this massive game. We have already Davos going for Liverpool to win 2-0. This is very optimistic if you are a Red supporter, I guess, because Liverpool defense is awful, no matter if it's in the Champions League against a poor Rangers or in the Premier League. In the last few games or in the whole season, to be honest. So we can expect, I guess, City to score a few goals at Anfield, especially because, for instance, Haaland was rested and some other players in the game against Copenhagen. And you mentioned before how seriously Man City took the game against Man United, and I'm sure they are going to take this one very seriously. And when these guys are on the matter, they are very dangerous.
Such a shame going into this game that we aren't seeing a great Liverpool at this moment in time. It's such a shame because this fixture has been so good for the best part of 5 years. It's been sometimes when we all watch football, we're on our phones or, we're chatting to the wife or having our dinner or whatever. But this has not been one of those games. It's been, you have to watch it. Stop everything you're doing, hands in your pockets. Watch this because it's going to be thrilling. And even when there have been low-scoring games between these two, the intensity and quality of the games has been just a joy to watch. And I don't think we're going to get that this time, unfortunately, because Liverpool are having another one of those bubbly seasons. It's 3 games in the league without victory. They were easily broken down by Brighton in their last game at Anfield. Brighton could have won that by 6 or 7. They were so much better than Liverpool in the first half. It was frightening for Liverpool fans. And last week against Arsenal, same. Arsenal are a good attacking unit, but some of the defending was poor. And there's been some debate about the winning penalty. It's a penalty. It's always going to be a penalty. It was loose defending from Thiago. And we can call it soft if that makes people feel better, but it's a foul and it's a penalty, and that's it. And Arsenal could have won it by more goals before then, I thought. So defensively, there are issues. There's no Trent Alexander-Arnold. Hopefully Robertson will be back, which means Tsimikas, I would assume, will pop into right back. So many concerns about Virgil van Dijk. His movement is poor. His positioning is poor. He's getting beaten quite a lot in games. He's making mistakes, which we haven't seen for the best part of 4 or 5 years. And who's alongside him? Like Joel Matip, is it going to be him? Curtis Jones had some stinkers this year. Where is the other centre-half? Where is Konate? I don't know. Does he even play for him? Like, what's going on? Is he the centre-half or not? I want him to play every game next to Virgil van Dijk, and we'll learn who the good centre-half is. So it's all a bit of a mess there at centre-half for Liverpool. The midfield looks weak and undercooked, and going forward, their best forward looks like Roberto Firmino, who this time last year was getting kind of bombed out. He was getting replaced by Darwin Núñez or someone else was going up front, Jota. So lots of questions to answer for Liverpool. But of course, we do know they can pull off a spectacular result. For Man City, what have they scored? 33 goals. They haven't lost a game. They're scoring on average, if we go across the last 3 games, what have we got? 3 games and we've got 13 goals. So what's that? 4.5 a game. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. So what do you do here to make some money? Because Man City are going to win this game. I think you're looking at a crushing Man City victory. I think you have to look at a crushing Man City victory if you're going to try and make some money. Every week, look at this market. Erling Haaland to score a hat-trick. It's 17-1. That's worth some money. Erling Haaland to score a header is 8-1. He's scored 3 headers already in the Premier League this season, and City do cross the ball. So Haaland to score a header, Haaland to score a hat-trick, City to win both halves, City to score above 3.5 goals. That's 4 or more. The only thing I wouldn't bet here is anything to do with Liverpool. I wouldn't bet on Liverpool to score. They might, but I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet on Liverpool to get anything from this game. I expect a crushing City victory, winning both halves, scoring at least 4 goals, and Haaland to score at least 2 of them.
Well, we have, you are very confident on Man City, to be honest. I agree with you, but we have also Marco, for instance, been optimistic with Liverpool. Liverpool double chance. They will stop Man City for this game. Andrillos, if Arsenal lose, Liverpool will win too. If Arsenal win, Man City will win. He says this way, Haaland, Salah and Firmino to be involved in goals. If we see the goals market, for instance, for this game, over 3.5 goals, you have odds around 2.2, as we can see right now, which is not that bad at all. And if we go for Asian handicap, Tom, for Man City, as you are suggesting as well, Asian handicap minus 1.5 for Man City is 3.6. Very good odds, because we haven't seen these odds for Man City to win a football game. 2.11 in the Premier League is high odds.
Nice.
Very confident. Tom with Man City, let me know in your comments. And Tom, is your safe bet Man City to win at Anfield?
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because my safe bet this week, I'm going with Arsenal. I've just been so impressed with Arsenal. And I think in Leeds United, they've got a perfect opponent for them to play. They're not going to low block. They're not going to sit deep. They're going to try and attack. And Arsenal are going to love it. Jesus, Martinelli, Saka and Ødegaard on the break against Pascal Struijk and Liam Cooper. Good luck to you. Arsenal win at Leeds. Safe bet.
You've convinced me. And your ACCA for this weekend?
3-team ACCA, away victories for Arsenal, as I've mentioned, Chelsea against Aston Villa, and Man City at Liverpool. That's 3 of the big 6 to win games at around 6 or 7 to 1. You're not going to get that very often, so jump on it this week.
Leicester City screwed us up last week. What to do about this defense and without Schmeichel enjoying the time in the Côte d'Azur? I don't blame him changing Leicester for Nice. I'm sure, personally, fair enough. Thanks, Tom. I enjoyed the video.
See you next week,
everyone, and see you next week. We have Premier League in the midweek, so we will be back very soon. Bye-bye.